Alright, so I'm back and I'm going to talk a little bit more about lighting for under 50 bucks. I saw a news story the other day that some people, at least in Canada, are a little upset they can't keep applying for grants depending on what kind of film project they want to do. I don't really get it. There is always a way around everything, so especially for any kids or people that are just fooling around making amateur film or just diaries for their web blogs or whatever they're doing. They don't need to buy all the expensive equipment unless they're working pro shoots. That's just bottom line. And even pros can use the stuff that I'm talking about and other things you can find around the web for their shoots if they're in a pinch. So the other day I was talking about how I went out and bought this little lampshade here, which is for a garage. I bought that at the Home Depot for 15 bucks. And I bought this element here, which burns at 150 watts for $15. And you just turn it on with this little switch here, like this, all right? And you put it on your subject. And it's got this little clamp on the bottom, which you can put to, there it is, you can put to the top of a chair, a bookshelf, anything you want. And I gotta tell you, I love this little thing. And I think I'm gonna start taking it on pro shoots anyway to use for maybe some soft background light or something, because this thing is just handy as hell. I love it. And the light output is not that bad at all, which we'll see in a minute. And again, we used our diffusion, which was, I was using just some tracing paper, but I saw on another guy's website, I think it's creativesomething.com, apologies, but he used parchment paper because it withstands a little more heat because it's used for baking goods. And that's a good idea. I just put it over top, and I used a clothespin to hold it on there. Now, what you're seeing right now, the lighting that is on me while I'm talking to you, I can see the light looks pretty good, it's pretty soft, and it's actually coming from 1,000 watts worth of light, which an RE1000 watt lamp would probably cost, well, the lamp would probably cost you about 30 bucks, but the light itself would cost you maybe $500, plus a stand on top of that is another $100 to $200. Probably 700 bucks including tax by the time you're all done for 1,000 watts of light. If you don't have that kind of cash, you're on a bit of a budget, or you just need a quick fix, or you don't care if it's a focused light, you just need a good 1,000 watts worth of power of wash. What you can do is, again, you can go to Home Depot or Home Hardware or Lowe's or any other hardware joint, and you can pick up these. And these are work lights. They're 500, there's two lamps on top of this stand. It's 500 watts on this lamp, 500 watts on the other. When you click them both on at the back here with the little red buttons, you can turn one off, one on, one off, one or the other, or both at the same time. When you turn them on, you get 1,000 watts worth of power. And all I'm doing right now to keep it soft so it's not so intense is I'm just pointing it at the wall. And I'm doing what they call a bounce. So I'm bouncing the light off the wall and back onto me, and it gives a good soft key light right here. All right. The other thing you can do with this, if you do want to shine it right at a subject, keep it a little bit distant. These are very hot lights. We'll talk about that in a second. But if you do want to put it right on a subject for that extra oomph to give those hard lines and shadows, but it's a little too bright, this is what I would do. They sell things called scrims, and that's what's used for lights, and this is kind of warm, but they sell things for lights called scrims, and what they are is just wire mesh, and theater lighting guys who know this as well as movie makers. You can go out and buy those. They can be a bit expensive as well. In a pinch, however, or if you just want to save some cash because you're just doing some hobby stuff, you can buy these. And this is not tennis or badminton or anything. These are those grease splatter guards that you put on top of like a stir-fry pan so you don't get stuff all over your oven or all over the back of the wall. And they're exactly the same as a scrim, because that's all a scrim is, except a scrim is smaller and it fits in front of a light. And what you can do, you can just hold the handle up here. And these are the child-proof or person-proof safety guards right here, so if nobody's looking or whatever, you can loosen those down. And you can prop your scrim right there, and this will knock the light down by about half a stop, making it less intense, less bright. And if you want, you can take another one right here and put it there as well and knock it down probably about a full stop to cut down on the intensity of that light. I saw on a website a guy was using the parchment paper because it's good for baking goods, so it should withstand a lot of heat, to cover things like this up. Don't recommend it. I left one on for about 10 to 15 minutes the other day just to see what would happen. After about 10 minutes it turned brown. After about 15 minutes it was ready to burn and burst into flames. So even though it's good for baking goods in the oven, these are very intense lights. Don't mess around with them, and when you turn them off, wait about 15 to 20 minutes before you take them off the stand and move them around, or you will burn yourself. And you could start a fire if you use diffusion. The only way around that would be to have a frame sitting a little bit out from the light. Then you put your diffusion on away from it so it's not as intense, the heat, on whatever paper you happen to be using. Or if you want to spend the bucks, you can get proper diffusion paper. All right, so that's one way around it. If you need that kind of kick, you can use work lights, which produce the same quality of light as an $800 light. The only difference is these are a broad throw and you can't focus them as much as you can the real movie lights. All right. Last night, I'm so in love with this thing, I decided I got an actress to sit down and read some lines from a script that I'm working on. And I just moved this one solo light around in different angles just to see what it could do and how it would look in a certain environment. So we're going to look at that now. All right, so in this first shot, we just had Amanda set up. We just threw the light with the shade on a chair, just clipped it to a chair, a little bit higher than head height, and threw some diffusion on it. It's a little bit flat, probably a little bit underexposed as well, but I don't really like it because it is so flat. And don't pay too much attention to the framing. I wasn't really looking at framing, but it's not very dramatic at all. Here the diffusion is removed. As you can see, the shadows are harder, brings out her face a little bit more. I think it's a little bit more dramatic looking, a little bit more mysterious. I think in the script this scene called for being in a hotel bar having a conversation. So this would be a little bit more the lighting you would expect to find in like a bar atmosphere. Here's the light. I placed it right in front of her, pointed it down at the table. It's with diffusion on it, and it brings out her face completely, but it's very in the headlights. It's very video-ish. You don't tend to want to have the entire face exposed because shadows give definition, and without those shadows, this just looks like she could be doing a webcast. This lighting might work in like a parking lot setting or a bright setting. This is the Gordon Willis, the guy who did Godfather 1 and 2. He was nicknamed the Prince of Darkness because he usually had most of the faces in darkness. If you go back and look at the Godfather movies, you'd be amazed how dark they actually are. Sometimes you can barely see the characters. He never did get an Academy Award for that, even though everyone remembers him. I like this lighting because, again, it's very dramatic. Makes you want to hear what the person is saying. Makes you want to lean a little bit closer. This is the same shot, but the light with diffusion is just lower. It's below her shoulder height, again, clipped to a chair. One thing I'm constantly having to remember, even because I do a lot of corporate work, is that you can change the lights vertically. So in a lot of corporate work, webcasts, things like that, the light tends to be straight on and around head height, or maybe a little bit above. Don't forget, you can go down to the feet and get maybe even, you know, the horror movie look, pointing straight up at somebody. As well, it's important to know that you would never get this effect if you were lighting them from the camera side. You don't get these kind of shadows, and it's what's called lighting from the upstage side. You should light it from the opposite side of where you put the camera. And if you pay attention to a lot of TV, a lot of film work, but especially TV where they follow rules very rigidly, 90% of the time the light is coming from the opposite side of camera. It's coming from the upstage side as opposed to the downstage side, and that's how you get your shadows. And then what you would do, so you could see the person's face a little more clearly, if you wanted to, you'd add a fill light, a soft fill on the camera side, and you'll, again, especially see this in television because TV, very rarely do they not show the entire person's face. All right, and we're back, and I hope that proves that with just one little light and 30 bucks, you can do a lot with it. Light is light. Don't get intimidated. Again, you move it around, see what kind of angles you like. Try and go for like a cinema look, or if you need a straight-on look for a simple webcast, something like that, you can do it. The point of the story is just go out, get something to play with it for a little bit, see what you like, and it will work for you. Anyway, all the best, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.